welcome to today's video. My name is Baylee. If you are new here, I asked you guys over on Instagram if you wanted to hear my labor and delivery story, and you guys said yes, so I'm going to tell you guys about it. Just to jump right in, I told my doctor at around 35 weeks at our 35-week appointment that I wanted it to be induced. So at that appointment, we set an induction date for around 39 weeks and 4 days. I wanted to be induced because I had a huge fear of going into labor at home and then having to drive it 2 hours away to the hospital that we were giving birth in the car, and dealing with labor in the car. I didn't want to do that, so I wanted to be induced so that I could maybe prevent that, and I did. The day before I got induced was Thanksgiving, and so that day we spent it with family, and I wish I would have just taken that whole entire day to absolutely do nothing, just like lay in bed, relax. So if you know you're going to be induced, I do highly recommend just taking the day before and just doing nothing, like just lay in bed all day, sleep, whatever. We decided to spend that day with family because Christmas we weren't going to be seeing family because Stratton would only been a month old, and I didn't want anybody to be getting him sick. So we weren't doing Christmas, so we did Thanksgiving. So the day after Thanksgiving, we got up at 4 in the morning, and we had to be at the hospital by 7. So when we got to the hospital, we did all the paperwork. They set me up to all the monitors that go on your belly, and they gave me a little pill, I don't remember what it's called, to help me dilate. When we got to the hospital, I was not dilated at all. I wasn't effaced at all. I was not even close to being ready to give birth. When she hooked me up to the monitor, she said I was having some contractions, but I wasn't feeling them. They decided to start off by giving me just a little white pill, and it helps your cervix dilate and help you have contractions to get labor started. I don't remember what it's called, but they gave me that. And then a couple hours later, I still wasn't dilating or anything. I wasn't really having contractions. I just felt kind of crampy. So they gave me my other dose. She said that I could eat. I know a lot of hospitals say that you can't eat, and they just don't want you to eat at all, but I was able to eat. I got to have a full meal, so I did that, and then ate. A couple hours later, the nurse came in, and she's like, your doctor wants to insert the Foley catheter, I believe is what it's called, and it's just a catheter that balloons, and it dilates your cervix really fast. So here's the thing with that. I wish I would have told her no. I just want to say that, like, if you are uncomfortable with doing something, just tell your doctor no. Like, if it hurts and you don't want to do it anymore, just tell her no. I wish I would have done that, so I'm giving you guys that advice for future reference. So the doctor came in. It wasn't my doctor, it was a doctor on call, but she had talked to my doctor on the phone. She came in to insert the catheter, and I immediately felt pain. It was so painful. As soon as she took her hand out from inserting it, contractions came on like that, and it was just one long entire contraction. Normally when you have contractions, you have a contraction and it lasts for like about a minute, and then you get a break. You get like a couple minute break in between. I did not get that with the catheter. It was so painful. So I dealt with that pain for about 2 hours. I was just like tossing and turning in bed, trying to find something that was comfortable. I was crying from the pain. I was bleeding really bad. I was trying to listen to worship music to get into a good headspace, and nothing was working. So they told me that I could get the epidural if I wanted to. Going into the hospital, I didn't want to get my epidural until the last possible moment. I wanted to go as long as I could until they were like, okay, you have to get it now or you can't get it at all. By this point, I was puking from the pain, so I puked up my whole entire meal that I was eating. I was just so uncomfortable. So the anesthesiologist came in. I think I was more scared to get the epidural than I was to just give birth, honestly. Like, it was so scary to me. But the anesthesiologist came in. My mom and Bailey's mom were in the room with us, and they had to leave. Only one person's allowed in there, so obviously it was Baylee. And he inserted it. It was pretty painful, but then I immediately felt relief as soon as he was done, and he got it on the first try, and I'm so thankful for that he didn't have to poke me a million times. So at that point that I got my epidural, it was probably like around 3 o'clock, and she had inserted the balloon maybe around noon. So I went that time in that amount of pain, and it was bad. So I just felt so much better. I thought I was gonna get to take a nap, maybe just relax a little bit, but Stratton's heart rate kept going in and out, and so they would have to keep coming in and messing with the heart monitor on my belly. He was so high up in my ribs, he wasn't moving down low at all, so they just kept going in and out. His heart rate wasn't dropping or anything, but they kept losing it on the monitor. So then they kept turning me on my side. I would stay on one side for 2 hours, turn on the other side for about 2 hours, and they were trying to just like move him down and see if those positions would help me dilate. And then about like 10 o'clock was their shift change, so the new nurses got to come on, and they checked me, and I was only like about a 3 maybe. Like I had went from not dilated at all, like 7, and then by like 10, 11 o'clock I was only at a 3. So that was kind of defeating. So I'm just like, wow, I've been in labor for this many hours and I'm just not, nothing's happening. So they talked to my doctor, and she told them to break my water. With my epidural, I wasn't feeling anything really. I was feeling like a little bit of pressure, but no pain like whatsoever. So when they broke my water, I didn't feel it. So they broke my water. I was still only at a 3. They're hoping that was gonna help speed some stuff up. Later, like a couple hours later, I would say, maybe around like 2, 3 o'clock, my epidural started to wear off, and it completely weared off on my left side. So I was feeling everything on my left side, and my right side was completely numb. So I was like crying because of that, because my epidural wasn't working, and I was pushing the button and nothing was happening. And then the nurse also came in at that same time to check me, and I was only at about maybe a 5. Yeah, a 5. And I'm like, wow, a 5. Like, it's 3 in the morning, I've been here since 7, and I'm only at a 5. Like, that's so many hours. And I just remember feeling so defeated. I just started crying even more, and I was like I don't know how much longer I can go on. Like, this is so hard. I'm so tired. The anesthesiologist came back in and upped my dosage for my epidural, so then my left side was back numb. And then Stratton's heart rate dropped like really low, and so like a whole bunch of nurses just ran in there. They put me on oxygen. They were flipping. It was very scary because I'm like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with my baby. And of course, you know, the nurses are trying to act calm but trying to act fast, and that was just very scary. I remember it like it happened yesterday. So they put me on oxygen. At this point, Baylee was asleep on the floor, and then he just woke up, and then I was like, all this stuff was happening. So I'm sure that was scary for him too. After they broke my water, and then a couple hours later his heart rate dropped, they started talking about a C-section, because if you didn't know, after your water breaks, you can only be in labor for like 24 hours after your water breaks before they have to do a C-section, because at that point it's just a really high risk of infection for you and the baby. Being so defeated again, because I'm like, wow, you know, women are supposed to do labor, they're supposed to be able to do this, and my body's just fighting against me like it's not happening. So they started talking about a C-section because I had already been in labor for so long. His heart rate kept dropping, and he wasn't moving down. He was still so high up, and it had already been a few hours since my water broke, and I wasn't showing any progress. But then finally, a few hours later, like around 5 o'clock, the nurse came in, and I was dilated to a 10, so I had progressed a lot in those 2 hours, and I got to start practicing pushing with the nurses. And my epidural, I had pushed the button way too many times once they upped it, so I was like very numb, so I couldn't feel anything at all, and I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to feel the pressure of him coming out, you know, feel the fact that I'm pushing. I didn't want to just feel nothing, and that's what I did. But I didn't know that if I pressed it that many times that it was going to feel like that. Like, they didn't tell me that. So I don't know, I just felt bad because I didn't want to experience it like that, but you know, it is what it is. Another thing happened. A woman came in through the emergency room, because she was in like labor, like she was about to have the baby. So it was kind of like a race between me and her, like who could have the baby fastest, because my doctor was also her doctor. So she was either going to be in there with her and I was going to have to deliver with the nurses, or vice versa. So once that lady got there, I guess she just got scared to push, so she wouldn't push her baby out. So the doctor came in there with me and I pushed for about 30 minutes and she was out, but he wasn't breathing right when he came out. And then they got him to breathe, but he wasn't doing it very well, so they just like immediately took him over to the incubator, and I didn't even get to like see him or really touch him. And that was very scary because they're freaking out. They're like maybe gonna run him up to the NICU, and it was just very scary. I sent Baylee to go over there with him, and he doesn't really know what's going on, you know. They're just trying to brace him down because he's not breathing very well. And I can't be over there with him because I'm getting stitched up because I had a really bad tear, and she's trying to finish up with me, and it's just heartbreaking that you can't be over there with your baby. And you know, like that's just so scary. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. And I just remember it like it was yesterday. Like that was just so scary. And so they worked on him for about 30 minutes, and they contemplated taking him up to the NICU, and all those nurses were NICU nurses anyways. But you know, that's just so scary when they start talking about NICU. You don't want that for your baby. Finally, they got him to breathe pretty okay. He was just still had so much amniotic fluid like in his lungs. And about 30 minutes after I was all stitched up and they took my epidural out, it sucks because, you know, so many moms get to do skin to skin as soon as their baby is born, and that's awesome and wonderful, but we didn't get to do that. So I just kind of feel like that's why I struggled so much once he was born with our bond. Like obviously that's not his fault or anything like that. Like, you know, you can't prepare for that. It just kind of sucks that we didn't get to get that initial bonding time with skin to skin. So it was about 30 minutes later, and then we got to do skin to skin, and then by that point we only got to do it for maybe like 15 minutes, and then we tried to nurse, and he, you know, wasn't feeling it because once they're born they really don't eat that much, maybe like once or twice the first 24 hours. And then they came in and they're like, well, we gotta take you to your recovery room now. And so my epidural was still trying to wear off, so I still couldn't really feel my legs or anything. And then they got me into the wheelchair. We got back to the room, and then his temperature dropped right before Baylee's parents, or his dad and his brother got there. So she was like, you can either like swaddle him with like 3 blankets, or you can do skin to skin. So I was like, well, obviously I'll do skin to skin with him. And then we only did it for about like 10 minutes before everybody like got there to see him. And I was just like so exhausted because I had been up for so many hours, and I was in labor for 23 hours, so I was just so tired. So I just let everybody see him. So once like all the initial family left and it was just my mom, me, and Baylee, I took a shower, and Baylee helped me take a shower, and my mom sat in there with baby Stratton, and then we ate dinner, and then later on my mom left. So, you know, we're getting ready to go to bed, and Stratton's still like kind of having issues breathing, so the nurses are coming in there like every 30 minutes to check on him. And then Baylee went to change his diaper, and he started choking on that amniotic fluid, and that was so scary. So Baylee just like picked him up really fast and was kind of like patting on him, and at the same time Baylee was changing a poopy diaper, and then he peed on him, so he's just covered in like poop and pee. But it was just so scary, like your newborn baby choking, like that's so scary. He made it through the night perfectly fine. We nursed, and yeah, like that whole experience was very scary for me just because that was my first baby. It was my first time ever experiencing anything like that, and just not being in your control and having all of those things happen is just kind of scary, you know. It was very traumatizing for me. Like I said, though, it might not be traumatizing for you guys, but it was very scary. And I hope and pray that all of you pregnant mamas have an easy labor and it's great for you. But yeah, that is my labor and delivery story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, just leave them down in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any videos from me in the future. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!